Hello and welcome to the first episode of The Coach, which is clearly a reference to this man, Ross Lyon, coaching 305 games at two AFL footy clubs. G'day, Ross.
Hello, Damo. Ex-coach it should be.
Ex-coach. It's still part of the possibilities in the future, isn't it?
Yeah, well, anything's possible, isn't it? Although unlikely at this stage.
Now, this conversation we're having today, we clearly are doing it over mobile phones, and I think we're doing it over the Zoom app, aren't we? We had a different plan over summer for this conversation to take place, didn't we?
We did. Yeah, it's a contingency approach at the minute. We like all of Australia, nearly all of the world, we've been derailed by COVID-19. So really challenging times, but it's good showing some initiative to do something different.
Now, we wanted to show our listeners and our viewers the quirky side to you. I know you don't see yourself as that, but we do on this side of the fence. And I suppose over the course of these programs that we'll be doing with you this year, if we can keep it going through this period anyway, is probably getting behind the scenes a bit, maybe revealing some things that we couldn't talk about at the time. And you and I might even talk about a conversation that we had one night, long after midnight, when you wanted to have something I'd said or written the previous day. We won't do that in this episode. We'll tease that one for a few weeks maybe. But yeah, just the plan for it is just to call it as it is, isn't it? I mean, you've always done that as a coach anyway, I feel. And I think now that you're not burdened by the responsibilities of representing a footy club, I think you're going to say lots of things that our listeners and viewers will like.
Well, I've tried to be always represent my club in the manner required. And there's lots of moments, lots of big moments, and haven't got every moment right. I think all of us would look at ourselves in that manner. So, but I feel, got represented the clubs for the majority of the time in the right way, and worked hard for the club. So, but you're always coming from a club perspective, and sometimes you have to sort of submit what you feel as an individual or what your opinion is. So, yeah, certainly I'm a bit freer to do that. And I'm in discussions leading into doing some media with whatever outlet. And with you, I'm certainly not here to bring out the baseball bat and be sensationalist for the sake of it. But, I think I've got some knowledge, some insight that we could share, and maybe just some of the basics that I'm desensitised to being in the system, or AFL players are and administrators. But the punters would like to hear about it and would enjoy that aspect of it. So, look, it's a bit of trial and error, obviously, but don't want to bang on too much, but hopefully give some insight and some, club perspective and personal perspective.
Well, we've already seen a different side to you. We asked you to jump on your phone and do a little recording the other night to promote the show here. And when I saw it, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. You were stroking a cat, Dr. Evil style. What's going on there? Ruby.
Yeah, I was just, my middle daughter Anna, she was filming, and Ruby just wandered past. So I said, why don't we put Ruby in it? Ruby's got some interesting stories. It wasn't funny at the time, but she went through a 90-minute cycle in a washing machine and survived. So there's a longer version of that. So she's in Perth, she was in the neighbourhood, everyone knew Ruby. So, we put her in. I knew I'd get some fierce comments, but maybe next week the two Labradors might be in as well.
Front loader washing machine or top? What?
No, it was a front loader. I've been down watching Sandringham, and the kids have been out to their cousin's farm, and I got back with some Thai food. I thought, oh, thank God they're not home. I'll have a peaceful meal. And Ruby had been spaded, and the kids were young. They walked in. Ruby. Dad, where's Ruby? What have you done to Ruby? You let her out? I said, no, I haven't. Anyway, the house is in turmoil. I wandered down the back. And the kids, and I looked in the front loader, and I opened it up, and Ruby had been put through the wash. So it was a long, I think I was hungover. It was a long weekend, and we drove to the emergency vet. It was in there for 3 nights on in ICU for cats. So, but she survived. It was a costly exercise and whatever.
I wouldn't be laughing if this had a different ending, but yeah, okay. So you're in the bad books of the family there, I'd imagine.
I was for a while. I didn't wash it, but my wife was doing the washing. She washed them in with the towels. So, where's Ruby? I said, you've washed her. But she's okay, everyone. She's okay.
I don't know where to start with that. I'm not a cat person, Ross, but I know a lot of people are. What is she? What sort of breed?
I couldn't tell you. She's an exotic. We used to have a Persian. I just pay the vet bills. But, look, most women will say men don't like cats because they're independent and they don't need you, whereas dogs are more dependent on you. So, look, learn to love the cats and the 2 Labradors. So, she's very special to us, Ruby.
Did she come out a bit different, Ross, with how she reacted?
No, that was the concern. Anyone? Well, to be honest, I went to bed. Like, it's not cheap, those vets. And I was waking up early for the Saints. I was up like at 5 a.m. because I said, ring the vet. You can't do it to the kids. We're going to have to finish Ruby. And she was like, oh, got on. I could just hear the conversation. Oh, okay. How much? Oh. So I said, if you don't spend it, she's a beautiful cat, they will. So anyway, Ruby survived.
And she obviously went to Perth with you as well, yeah, after that?
Yeah, she went to Perth. There's a couple of...
You put it through a bit. Yeah. Hey, I was going to get serious.
It's a good start.
Now, I don't know where to go. It's hard to move out of you washing a cat in a front loader to what the world's dealing with. But I suppose we're going to need a few of those type stories, aren't we? All of us, not just you and me, but the whole world and obviously people who are maybe tuning into this program, Ross, to try and break up what's going to be a great disruption to lives and livelihoods and the great fear that's all lying ahead. But just if you could put yourself into the shoes of what you once were for 15 years, a coach of a footy club right now, with a bunch of men, 48 of them, 50 of them or thereabouts, who also have those same fears and have now been asked to leave their footy clubs one match into a new season. There's a lot to take in, and you don't have to look at it now from that lens of that coach. But what do you think you would be doing if you were still in charge?
Yeah, really interesting. And I've taken great interest in what the other coaches have been saying and how they've been leading. And Michael Moldhouse, who's a great coach, he wrote an article the other day and not comparing, but using wartime analogies and about challenge and growth. So, I mean, the first thing is, and then in this situation, there's a number of leaders at your club, president, CEO, football operations manager, and they'll all have their moment where they'll speak to the players. But my fundamental responsibility as a senior coach is to drive a football program and drive performance and the growth of your players on and off the field. So I'd keep pulling it back to our core responsibility as professional players and representing your members, fans and sponsors. And, previously the doctor community, the St Kilda community we've got a plan for it to be back and we've got to be ready to go. And there's an opportunity to take advantage and improve your position, So with the assistance of the high performance manager, they'll be the professionals with the timeframes given to map out a program. But you try and instill into the players, look, there's the community aspect and family aspect that you really need to take care of. But that never leaves you. That's always there. But, you're... Because you've got a number of identities, aren't you? You can be a father, a son, a grandson, a mate, a husband, boyfriend. So that's all the identities you wear. But also your professional identity as an AFL player, you need to take. And you've got your social identity, which is obviously curtailed with the COVID. But, your footballing identity is a huge part of what you are. And it allows you to enjoy your life in a lot of ways and plan your life. So take care of it. And really, we talk about plan your work your plan. So really structure up your days, plan your work times, your rest times, because it can't just be flat out. So, and recognise what type of personality you are, what assistance you're going to need. There's if you stood them on a rope and said, who's going to be perfect and who's going to need the most help, most players would know where they go. So then once you sort of delineate who needs what, well then you try and wrap the resources and support around them, have assistant coaches, checking with them, those sort of things.
You obviously of the experienced type of coach, and Alistair Clarkson, Ken Hinkley, Damien Hardwick now, and others are of that type too. How do you think they will deal with it differently to the younger coach?
To the what coach?
To the younger coach, the David Teague, Reece Shaw type of coach, who it's all new. The whole AFL system's new to them, but they obviously don't have the body of experience as the leader of men in a coaching sense.
Yeah, well, they'll draw on them. They know their players will be looking to them for strong direction. And I think maybe, and the easiest thing is to say just go and relax and what will be. But you can't do that. The stronger leaders will give strong directions, set expectation and standards with their senior group, and help somehow they'll find a way to drive that through their player group and come back in good shape. I would be backing those guys in to be able to do that. You know, Clarkson and Chris Scott, you know, Damien Hardwick has found a way now to get his group and the maturity of the group. That doesn't come overnight. So those with younger lists and less seasoned athletes and professionals are going to find it harder because they're still learning their craft and their professionalism. So, and they're also got an ability to sort of tap into outside resources and give analogies that players, they'll try and give them a hook, something to hook onto to be able to drive themselves.
Yep. Ross, you have entered the media this year, and it hasn't, because of what's happened with the coronavirus situation, unfolded, including this show, the way you may have prepared it for. One thing that was always going to happen, I felt, was your comments, and in this case, what you made last Wednesday night on Footy Classified about the Gold Coast Suns. They were provocative, and they were I suppose, critical of the money drained by the competition by that football club. You got a return fire the other day from Tony Cochrane, who is the chairman of that footy club, and I might just get you to take a listen to it in a moment.
But the real ongoing problem we've got here is one of success. We've built 28 new ovals in the last 5 years in the Gold Coast region and Northern Rivers, and it's not enough. We've got junior talent and junior football in both girls and boys absolutely exploding from one end of Queensland to the other. And that's all because the AFL Commission have done 10 years of hard slog using the media rights fee money to get us into this position. And why anybody would even consider chopping that growth off now just proves that perhaps not only are they a failed coach, but they don't know much about economics either.
Ross, he's called you a failed coach, not only a failed coach, but someone who doesn't know anything about economics either.
Well, it could be accurate on both of them. Who knows? But we could debate it. I did say, I mean, it's always about context. We're talking about the challenge of the league. I've actually done some more research on that, trying to build my economic knowledge up. But, yeah, so I was talking about what the league is faced with. I mean, we're going to the banks for a $600 million loan. And the margins in AFL footy, I just read the annual review, annual meeting last night. Like, it's $900 million of revenue. And after all costs and all expenses taken out, I think the AFL made $28 million. But it's not a huge amount of money. And I think after all debts paid off, they might have had $80 million in cash reserves. So you think what we're losing out of the game, television rights, gate receipts. I mean, Collingwood would make $1 million at an MCG game. So there's enormous money coming out. And we didn't say about getting rid of them. We said, well, do we put them in hibernation? Is it time to look at return on equity? And we just said nothing's off the table. And then it was a bit about, we looked at the minutes on the shortened games. 22 minutes normal season equated to, you could have 32 games at the same amount of minutes. So you could fill northeast Queensland with marquee games. So what's interesting about
forget the economics of it, Ross. I just love the stoush, right? Let's not worry about the impact of the financials on this. Media, hand up here, love a stoush between two heavyweights. Tony Cochrane's a heavyweight, you're a heavyweight. Give him a return soon,
I didn't know a lot about him, so I read up on the V8, 52,000, filled it up, sold 60% for $350 million. So, look, he's got that brash Gold Coast out of him, fighting for his club. Certainly respect that. Lee Matthews sort of spoke about Gold Coast cannibalising Brisbane the previous year. Now, he's got a few premierships under his belt. He wasn't a failed coach. He was just a short-sighted coach. So maybe if I had a premiership, I'd just be short-sighted. But really, I think where he's got to be careful, if the lens that was put on me is very binary. So failed is, yes or no. So clearly, like 3 grand finals, lots of footy, but ultimately no premiership. So, and that's okay if that's your measure. But let's reflect that lens onto the Gold Coast. So you can't measure people by premierships and then measure people by how many junior football grounds and participation rates. So, if you're Tony, you use the same lens on measure of success that you're doing an AFL coach for an elite AFL club. But, they've been growing at 5.2% participation rates up there. But I would have thought Brisbane Lions would take a share of that and AFL Queensland would take a share of that. So it's just a little bit of, but I think it's an opportunity maybe for the Gold Coast and the AFL, maybe to clarify what are the metrics of success. How are we measuring the Gold Coast? Because if it's win-losses, it's not really healthy at the minute. Their membership, the average crowd attendance in 2011 was 19,000, peaked at 16,000 after that in 2014 when they were 7-4, which is winning talks. And Guy McKenna was sacked, and they averaged 13,000 5 years later. So that's a 28% decline in crowds, and their membership has basically stalled at 13,000 over 8 years. So, but that's clearly not the metric. And winning games. So
what is clear there is you've gone back over the records, Ross, to have another go. What is clear there is you've gone back over the performance of the club to have another go back at Tony Cochrane. I like that.
Well, it's not a go. It's just I'm not sure what the metrics are. But we all understand North East Queensland's a growth area. It's got 5 million people. I think rugby league have gone north. Servicing up there. I mean, there's 2 clubs within 100 kilometres of each other. But I understand it's a frontier, but it was growing on the back of, the Brisbane Bears were there in 1986. So this isn't a 10-year war, is it? It's been 34 years of the Brisbane Bears and Brisbane Lions and AFL Queensland. So no doubt Gold Coast have raised the awareness up there, but I'm not sure what the measurement is of success. Is it just participation? But if you apply the same lens that he applied to me, I think he might have a different measure on his club.
Did you sell yourself short there too when you said 3 grand finals? You obviously had 3 seasons which ended in grand finals, but there's actually a 4th grand final amongst that mix given the drawn season with Collingwood.
Yeah, I don't really count I counted it was a grand final we lost, but they really earned the right to be there. It was like three seasons. Yep. So yeah, and the draw was an amazing experience, bizarre experience. But, again, it all depends what your measures are. Did you get the best out of your list? Should you have won one? All of those things. But, I sit comfortably here that I couldn't work any harder. And people can label me whatever they want. And if that makes them feel better, project their feelings, that's okay.
I think I've had a few run-ins with Tony as well over the journey. I think everyone in footy has. He does get on with it, Ross. I reckon he won't be harbouring that view of you once he talks about you again. But I reckon he's a bit off the mark calling you a failed coach for what it's worth.
Thanks. I appreciate the positivity.
Hey, tell me about the meeting if you don't mind. And it's pertinent this week given that Channel 7 ran a documentary on Sunday night, just gone, on Ben Cousins' latest plight, I suppose, is probably the best way to describe it. I didn't see it, Ross, for what it's worth. I chose not to. I don't have as much empathy right now for Ben as I do other situations and other people. That's just the reason I gave. I still have empathy for him and sympathy, but not right now. So the reason I want to raise it though, Ross, you as a footy club, St Kilda, made the decision, as a lot of Melbourne clubs did at the time, to not go for Ben Cousins. Ultimately, he ended up at Richmond in that period. But your club met as a department of football and board. I know there's probably even some confidentiality still attached to that conversation and that board meeting. But can you take us behind the scenes there a little bit as to why the Saints said no to Ben at that time?
Yeah, it was a long time ago. It was a long time ago, and it was very controversial. Like you, I chose not to watch it. I haven't watched any of his documentaries, and I have some relatively close connection with the Cousins family. A sibling worked with me for a period of time at the Dockers, so I am sensitive to it, and it's just to see it rehashed. I haven't heard great reports about it, so we all feel for Ben, but it's up to Ben from here. But back to St Kilda, he was a star of the competition. And I was a young coach, and I think we just finished. Might have been, it was end of 2008, wasn't it? We'd been smashed in the prelim, and had a good experience for the operations manager in Matthew Drain, and was keen to get him. We had a number of meetings with Ben. We flew over with Fraser Geary and a few others to Perth, met with Ben, had dinner with Ben. And that was when he was really starting his rehab and had some abstinence. But even in that meeting over there, it was really simple. Everything had been in the papers, and I only knew what I read. And, and I said to Ben, what are we really dealing with here? And that's when he really opened up. It had been, cocaine for a long time, and then it graduated to a more severe substance. But he was basically clean at that stage. So what I learned out of that meeting, he was really needing AFL football to give him structure in his life. And he was so engaging and so football smart at the dinner we went to that night. It was hard to equate the challenge that he was going through. We then, with Matthew Drain and a few other ladies, we took that back to the football club, and it sort of progressed to there. Ricky Nixon was the manager, and we're progressing on his contract, but there was just a real uneasiness, particularly from the president, Greg Westaway, and myself. I did more research on drug addiction and the different substances, and the players were really keen to get banned, but really simply there was a bit of a split view, really, the president and myself and the CEO and football manager, which is fair enough. You're entitled to do that. So we went to a board meeting at the top of Collins Street. I forget what it was called, off-site. Andrew Thompson was on the board. John Gdansky, some really good board members. And it really, commercially for the club, was going to be a boon in membership and spike and all those things. But I'd made my mind up as coach that I was out.
Right.
And Greg Westaway was out. And I went to a vote, to be honest. But once the president and CEO, not CEO, once it went around as a vote, but it became really simple. Once the president said he was out and the senior coach said he was out, Andrew Thompson was really strong and just said, it's pretty simple. They're out, we're out as a club. So...
But the playing group was supportive of the move, though, wasn't it?
Well, they were shocked. The next day I went in and they all had their heads dropped. And so I sort of just spoke about, don't worry about Ben Cousins, because we have a lot of talent. We had Goddard, we had Luke Ball, Del Santo, Montagna. Did I mention Goddard? We had Hayes. And I just said, well, don't drop your bundle. You guys can be as good as him, but why don't you train like Ben? Train hard every day. And from there, those guys popped in 2009 and went through the roof. I was pretty fierce at them because I was sulking a bit.
Do you wonder, though, Ross, that the addition of him, and when you lose a grand final, when that siren went, that you're only 6 points down. Obviously, Rook kicked the goal after the siren to make it 12. But obviously, you're within a kick when the siren went. Do you wonder what might have been if you had been?
No, not at all. Ben wasn't Ben. Ben had injury problems. He had the hamstring problems, massive distraction. I think Richmond could speak to their experience, but from the outside, and if anything, it drove our players. And we had enormous opportunity in that grand final, enormous opportunity. So Yeah, there might be some people that think that, but I wouldn't think the players and the coaches think that.
Ross, the movement this year in the one round of footy played, and if we ever get any more footy, 16-minute quarters plus time on. Do you like it?
Yeah, I like it a lot. I felt for a long time the game it's been too long. And, the physical demands on the players. It was 100 minutes plus time on. It's supposed to go 120 minutes. And, yeah, and it has to produce a certain type of athlete. Once they reduce the rotations, they become... I've heard the noise about Petrarca will be better in a shortened game and De Goey, and they're explosive, and they will, because it takes out the endurance demands of the game. I've always thought it's been too long. I think most coaches have. So the game's got a real opportunity, but there's a challenge with broadcasters, the amount of games and minutes that they've required, that there hasn't been able to be much change. But I think everyone's open with the challenges going on. I think the AFL have got more opportunity and more hand to be able to rearrange and shape the game in the manner that they see fit.
Yeah, and are you suggesting that whatever the future is, and no one knows what that is right now, but are you suggesting that they take the opportunity that this is now presenting the game overall to remodel itself, rejig itself, restructure itself, and look to the future? And if so, what else would you suggest they do at this time?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're all just brainstorming it. It feels free and unshackled from the charters of the game. And the broadcasters are our number one partner. We get how much money they put in. And it's been binary. It's been a yes or no. It's been, we have to play X amount of games and this amount of time. And we've been locked into that. It's a bit like the AFL Grand Final with the MCG. But the broadcasters are now in position, they're under a lot of pressure too. So I think they'll accept change more readily than they would have in the past. So I think it's a real opportunity for the AFL.
List sizes, Ross, do you have a strong view on what that should look like next year and beyond?
Well, it all gets back to the amount of money. I mean, we're taking a $600 million loan out. I think that's probably extras for what we need, but we don't know how much we're going to use until what unfolds. We don't know. We're playing footy, not playing footy, how many games. So, I mean, if we draw on a $500 million line of credit, the snout's in the trough. The honeymoon's over. So everyone will be slicing and dicing everywhere. So list sizes are the first one. A lot of pressure on clubs to develop young players and big groups of young players. There's minimum payments required. There's teams of coaches and psychologists and conditioners to bring them through. So it's the first noise being made out of AFL House. I don't think me and you're pushing it. I think it's been the murmurs are out, list sizes, and then push the others down into a second-tier competition with less pressure where they can develop, and then recoup some of the money or pay the better players more.
The personal side to what football people are enduring, Ross. Look, you spent a lot of time at two footy clubs, and before that, assistant coaches at others. And I know you've got a lot of friends and confidants in footy. How tough are they doing it right now? The people that probably don't return when the game returns?
Yeah, the immediate financial toughness is strong. And the community, we just reflect the community challenge, but those with mortgages and school fees and you've taken out commitments projecting on your salary, the stress levels will be through the roof. I spoke to Anthony Rock, who I brought over to Fremantle 5 years ago, but he's just a doer. He's already working at an IGA and he's starting at Woolworths and stacking shelves. So those that are prepared to work will get it out there and work, but it's very stressful for that. And he's in the middle of a renovation in a house in Essendon with his wife Samantha and kids. So enormous amount of stress. So then you get the ones, and then there's uncertainty for Anthony and everyone in AFL footy. Well, we've been stood down, but who's coming back? It's incredibly stressful, and hopefully the assistant coaches with professional careers behind them or trades or whatever have something to hang their hat on. But if you've just locked into being a professional coach, it's a dire circumstance. And and the stress levels will be unbearable.
Mm.
So you feel your heart goes out for those guys.
You do, and unfortunately, it's going to be a rolling story, isn't it? Now for a very long time, and I'm sure you and I will talk about it over the coming weeks. If indeed you want to give this program another go next week, Ross, and beyond.
I'd love to give it a go. Let's see how the clicks go. If we get some clicks, we'll be back. If not, it's been nice knowing you all.
I somehow reckon that cat in the washing machine story might get on around somewhere else, at least on our platforms anyway. So.
Yeah, no, I didn't really plan to share that, but yeah.
Oh, well, look, the important thing is she looked pretty happy the other night on your couch anyway, Ross. So I think she's okay again.
She did. I didn't have to chain her there.
Hey, good to chat, mate, and let's give it a go throughout the course of this year on this particular program. The Coach, which is obviously a reference to your 300-plus game AFL career. I've enjoyed it today, Ross. Hopefully we get to do it again next week. We'll see you then.
Thanks, Damo. Hopefully the punters liked it.